So hey everyone. So basically, we're going to be talking about character today in our lesson one of character design with Robert Paul Jr. So yeah, let's jump right in. So basically, the definition of character would be kind of the mental and moral qualities that are distinct to, just any kind of individual or type of person. It's all within, and that's kind of like what in my opinion makes great storytelling. I mean, you can have a story that's around the character and then the character fits in, or the story can come from within the character, where the character is basically the source of the story, if that makes any sense. So yeah, so we can start by going over some of the main character archetypes. I mean, there's 12 of them that are pretty common to characters, or anything in a story or anything in a book or any kind of storytelling format rather. So there's 12 of them and we can go over them. The first one would be hero. There's the sovereign, the sage, the magician, innocent, creator, lover, explorer. There's a caregiver, jester rather. There's a citizen and a rebel. So those are the 12. And let's look at them individually, meaning we'll move this over right here so you can kind of see these. Go over here and share this screen. So yeah, so let's go over some of these character archetypes. Like with the hero, the strength and courage and stamina, faith, just basically the one that wants to defy all odds and make sure that something is won or or achieved. Great, just big an achievement. Going to sovereign, it's kind of like, the order, stability, just the kind of the rock of the entire um not story, but more so the entire world. Like the one who's kind of like the head of the whole thing. Um, the sage is kind of like a Gandalf character. We'd say someone that's like really, really just knows what they want to talk about. They just know all about clarity of thought and wisdom. Just someone you can really go to really understand whatever it is, whatever you have questions about. Magicians, they're also they're usually used to help a character along the way. Sometimes it can be kind of tricksters or anything like that. Innocent, like these are the ones that are very trustworthy in a story. Like creators. Like sometimes a creator can also be a narrator as well, someone who's kind of outside of the story speaking in and just has a really good sense of like aesthetics or just how something can be knit together. Uh, Lovers belonging to a group, people that are very close knit. Explorer, someone like Indiana Jones, or they can also be mixed with a hero. And those are the kind of things that can happen. You can mix different archetypes with one another, and you can create a whole new set of characters based on those archetypes, which is awesome. That's part of the whole fun of character design, right? So, there's a caregiver, someone who's compassionate, loving, someone who's there for you in a story. Um, and sometimes when you're really compassionate, it can also tend to show arrogance or funny with even like delusion, overly compassionate where you're just like thinking about yourself and your compassion. So it can go overboard too with any of those. Um, not explorer, sorry, the gesture, someone who's kind of like the comic relief, the humor, the fun in a story. Citizen, someone who's like always about accountability, always the one that wants to do the right thing. And then there's the rebel, the risk taker, the the one who's always trying to push the envelope. So, very, very in a nutshell, that's basically what those 12 archetypes are. And in doing those 12 archetypes, I'd like to switch over to looking at my main screen here with some pretty cool designs from one from Chuck Jones and one from Carter Goodrich. This is from The Grinch, Chuck Jones, and then we have one from Carter Goodrich, who's a character designer, someone that I've spoken to and kind of know. He designed on Brave. And it's interesting to see some of the differences between these two characters. And Chuck Jones's Grinch would be more like you call him maybe he's part rebel. He's also a little bit of a a trickster or jester in a sense too. But he can also be, what else would he be? I mean, he can, I would say more so he's a rebel. He's a rebel and a trickster. He can also be on the kind of on the rougher side of characters. He's misunderstood. You can see that as well. Misunderstood and kind of just wants to do his own thing. He's kind of let himself go. You can kind of tell by the his shape here. And I'll do a little bit of a draw over here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So he's kind of let himself go as a character. And since he's kind of been in his own, if you know anything about the Grinch story, he's in the hills, he's by himself. He's kind of separated himself from the Who's, who live in the main city. So, he's got double pot belly and he's just kind of like slumped. And he's standing up straight because he's trying to be confident, but he's really not. Even his legs are just like, oh, there's no confidence here. They're just kind of tilting in on each other and not really, not really very confident. And then we have on the flip side here, we have, the king, the father from Brave, who's just powerful and strong, and he's just, solid in every way. You can just see in his structure, he's just completely structured and powerful, right? And that's huge for character arcs and storytelling to really show your character with the way they stand, the way they look, the way they talk. Just all of these things are super important when creating a great character. And you can use all of these kinds of story arcs, not story arcs, but these archetypes to create the character that you like. And these are great aid. And but before any of this, I mean, we look at these great characters, but when we think about it, you know, one of the main things you want to do before you're even starting any of this is you want to go into getting great reference, finding or people or drawings or anything that can kind of pinpoint what it is you want your character to look like or what you want your character to stand for. And that's a really big deal when you're dealing with creating new characters or creating anything story based. It's absolutely necessary because the reel is always going to instruct what the imaginary or the storytelling is going to demonstrate. And that's a big deal when creating a character. It's all about story, 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 story all the way, all the time. And yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things to do when designing a character or going through archetypes and trying to figure out how I want my character to look is thinking about shape, like I described just a while ago, just a minute ago, figuring out why a character is the way they are. What shapes would really demonstrate that? If you have a character that's, just on kind of the down end, the sadder end, or someone who's not so brave or happy. I mean, sometimes you're not gonna want something that's very or a character that's very poised or full of how can I say this? Not poised or full of broadness. You're gonna want someone that maybe would be a little bit like this, a little bit downtrodden and a little bit sad. Let's say his head is a little bit slumped down, you know? He's just, looking to the side and it's just like he's just he's just kind of in a sad pose, right? Because he's down. He has a little bit of question mark back. And in characters like this, you can even add a little bit of a add a little bit of a tilt. So he's not there's nothing really, this is kind of exaggerated, but there's nothing really confident about this type of character, you know? And then you can do things in his appearance with maybe the kind of the kind of clothes he's wearing. Maybe his clothes don't fit very well, where they're kind of just like drooping down, saggy. He has a belt that isn't quite on him properly, or he has a hat that's just kind of like, it's too big for him. Like, just to be a little bit awkward, just in his stance as well, just being a little awkward and not really not really sure of himself. Maybe you can have a finger on his face to kind of show um like he's not really sure, he's wondering, he's in thought, just trying to figure out what things are really like, what's going on. Do I really want to do this? I'm a little bit nervous. And little things like small things like lines and texture really help. Even his hair, maybe his hair is a little bit disheveled, and this archetype really demonstrates this character really demonstrates this archetype, someone who I can, look through here and kind of figure out what archetype this is. And it can be innocent archetype, along with a little bit of there could be a little, yeah, it's mostly going to be the innocent archetype. He's innocent. He's nervous. He's innocent. He could also be a citizen who is, he's into fairness and stewardship, and accountability. But because of that, it's rendered him to be kind of, kind of sad, a little bit like, man, I wonder what everybody else is doing. What's going on? I hope I'm doing the right thing, kind of like Chucky from Rugrats. It's not such a this I don't think this is such a good idea. So this kind of stuff happens, and especially when you're doing your characters, sometimes you want to be able to adjust those characters and make sure that their form is right. Like with this right here, I drew this, but it seems to have a little bit of a tilt. So you want to always make sure that your characters are sitting right. And let's see here. Let's go make sure he's sitting kind of sitting right. Adjust a little bit of the other parts there, but yeah, there we go. So yeah, I mean, that's the basics of this class here, not really a class, but basics of this lesson here. I'm just wanting to show and discuss, why reference is crucial for characters, the different character types, archetypes, and just kind of like, just have you guys have any questions if you have any questions. Just ask any questions if you have any questions, and we can go back and forth on what kind of characters you like, um what shows or series or movies that you can find out there to kind of see, um pinpoint some of these archetypes. And I think that would be great. I mean, even for our first assignment, it'd be awesome if you can go in and find three different character archetypes in your favorite TV shows. Not pick one show. And if you could find three different characters, archetypes in those shows, and bring that to class next time, and then we can kind of go over everybody's characters and we can dive into creating our own. So yeah, this is good. This is great. I'm excited about this class, and we can take it from there. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye bye.